Welcome to Attention Retention with Jackie McManus, your source for the latest trends in transportation recruitment and retention.
Welcome, everyone, to another exciting episode of Attention Retention. I'm your host, Jackie McManus, CEO and founder of KJ Media, a recruitment advertising agency that empowers trucking companies to accelerate their hiring and become the employer of choice. Today, we're diving deep into recruitment, retention, and recognition, and we have a very special show today. I'm excited to have on Jeron Rennie, driver recruiting manager at Anderson Trucking Services.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Jackie.
So you've been with ATS for nearly 6 years, and I'm so excited to have you on the show because of your diverse background in marketing,
Sure.
which is a lot of what I do, content creation. And before we dive into the 3 R's, can you walk us through your journey and becoming the driver recruiting manager at ATS?
Yeah, of course. So I actually started at ATS, like you said, just shy of 6 years ago. And I came on to be what they called the social media and marketing content specialist. So I did some of our social media stuff. I wrote some articles and some of our website content and things like that, and continued to kind of work with the team there as that team grew. It used to be me and 2 others, and now I think there's 8 people on our marketing team here. So certainly grown over the years. And then last year, just over a year ago now, I made the move over to recruiting.
Awesome. And I have to say, 6 years ago in our industry was definitely more progressive to be hiring on for social media content or even,
Sure.
Any form of marketing that wasn't outsourced. So that type of initiative, and obviously going to the website, you could really see all the work that's gone into it really has shown, and it continues to show. So I'm excited to jump into the first R. Let's talk about recruitment.
Sure.
What are some of the more successful approaches that you have found in attracting and recruiting in today's market, which is obviously evolving, as we know?
Yeah. So for us, it kind of centers around transparency, right? It's really easy from a recruiter mindset to just think about, well, this driver's on the phone, I'm going to hire him. Well, maybe they're not the right fit, and that's okay. It's okay to have a driver on the phone that isn't going to be a good fit for us, or we're not a good fit for them. And so we really focus around, we kind of have that consultant mindset as opposed to a recruiter. And so when they call in, we're fine talking through what options we have, and we're not going to tell them that we'll pay them more money than we will, because it's just going to turn into turnover down the road. So it's important to us to make sure that we're being clear and upfront with them, and we hope drivers are being clear and upfront with us. And if they come on to ATS, obviously that's great. If they don't come on to ATS, we consider that a win too.
Right, because in the long run, then it's not a turnover or dealing with a disgruntled employee or someone that may, be falsely advertised or recruited too. So that's part of I'm assuming, is that part of the initial conversation with recruiters and drivers, finding out exactly what they're looking for and what ATS can do as far as a relationship?
Absolutely. And actually, for us, it even goes before that first conversation. Okay. If you go to our website, our social media channels, things like that, we're absolutely trying to be transparent and actually educational in a lot of the marketing that we do, as opposed to promotional. So we'll tell a driver that we have articles that are the best carriers to work for in different areas, and you won't find us on that list. It's all about being transparent and sharing who we genuinely feel are great carriers to work for out there, even if it's not us. And so, you'll find that before in our marketing too. And we don't like to do the whole up to language either, just from a pay standpoint.
Yeah.
We talk about ranges, and they're genuine ranges that we pull from driver settlements. And so, again, it even starts before that first conversation. But absolutely, when they pick up the phone on the recruiting team, they're trying to go down that path too.
Yeah, and that's definitely a smart way to look at that. When we work with our clients on the trucking side, the up to is basically the forbidden fruit. We don't want that there. Drivers can smell that a million miles away. Even if it is a potential at some point, it's
right.
Typically at some point. But the phrasing up to is challenging. You've got averages, median averages across the board. And, going back to ATS building this social media network and education is really, like I mentioned, ahead of the curve. And now folks are getting on board with that in the industry. I know when I started my company 11 years ago, talking about social media in our industry, a lot of folks just didn't understand the value of it. But what it comes down to is it is an educational piece. And I think the stat is 76% of drivers now, even if they see your ad on Indeed, they may do a quick apply, but they're going to then Google your company and see what content do you have out there? What are your ratings? What are other drivers saying to you? And so they're able to take that information and really make an educated decision on whether or not it's the right fit for them.
For sure. Yeah, for sure. And you find that all the time. They'll call, and before that, I've kind of heard a similar stat where, most of them, they've done about 80% of their research before they ever call you. So you're almost not even selling them at that point. They've already kind of sold themselves before they pick up the phone. So yeah, it's definitely different than it was, even like you mentioned, when I first started at ATS.
Yeah. So with this competitive market that is the nature of trucking, obviously it's a different market right now, but it's still competitive and the pendulum will swing again. And there's so many options out there for drivers. How do you differentiate ATS to make it stand out as an attractive employer?
I think similar to what we were just talking about, right? We want to attract drivers that expect transparency, want people that are going to be honest with them, and not just, pull them up just to ultimately potentially let them down, down the road. So I think it comes down to that, is just somebody that wants to openly communicate, not expect that we're keeping any secrets. I mean, we've got meetings with drivers here that with people from the top all the way down, that just regularly meet with drivers to try to keep them in the loop on what's going on with the company. We're not public, so a lot of that stuff doesn't have to be shared. But we want to share it. We want to be transparent. And so I think that's a big thing is just finding drivers that don't want to be misled and drivers that want somebody that's going to be open with them, as long as hopefully they're open with us.
So in essence, also, obviously there's regulations and insurance minimums of years of experience and the type of experience, but with your drivers too, you're looking at more of a cultural fit. It seems like if they want an open, honest, transparent company, and that's their core values, and that's something that can be discussed throughout the recruiting process. And the word transparency and respect is everywhere on ATS marketing collateral, which is really impressive because a lot of companies, they say it, but it's not out there. And it's one thing to say it, but with the reviews you guys have, which are amazing, proof is in the pudding.
Yeah, it's like you kind of said, it's one thing to say it, right? But we hope the actions that the recruiters take on the phone with these drivers kind of prove that we're serious about it. Nothing is more frustrating when carriers say, "Oh, safety is our top priority," and you look at their record and it's not, and just things like that. So saying it is one thing, but we hope the actions are certainly backing that up.
What would you say, looking at we're April 30th, last day of April 2024. And this has been, again, a unique, slower time of year. And we've seen some clients that maybe are too dependent on the spot market, focusing on, okay, current staff, current drivers, are these folks the best fit? I'm curious, what challenges have you encountered over the last couple of months, and maybe ways that you've overcome them at ATS?
Yeah, so for the last probably just shy of a year, we've really been evaluating, turnover's kind of been an issue for a lot of carriers, I think, out there. And so just trying to evaluate what we can do to solve what we were dealing with here. And a lot of it boiled down to just not being able to get drivers home when they wanted to, things like that. And so There's been a lot of changes to our hiring areas in the last calendar year, which certainly poses challenges for recruiters that are used to hiring in a larger area. And so shrinking those hiring areas, making sure that our guidelines kind of align with what we're looking for in a driver. So even there's been some tightening there. And so it certainly posed challenges for recruiters. They've had to overcome those challenges. I feel very good about what my team has been able to do overcoming those challenges. So very proud of them in that front. But yeah, we've certainly made some things that make recruiting a lot harder. But I think in the end, we're starting to see the effects of those decisions, and drivers seem to be sticking around a little bit longer because we are kind of holding up on our end of the bargain.
I absolutely love that your company took the stance of really focusing on the turnover. During COVID and even before COVID, a lot of folks are just getting, drivers in the seats. And looking at the turnover and saying, oh, okay, well, it's 90%, and accepting that, high percentage where we look at other industries and it's not that high. So let's go right into the next R, retention. Can you discuss any unique employee engagement programs or initiatives that have contributed to retaining your current workforce?
Sure. Yeah. And so for us, it kind of goes back to, again, being transparent, right? We want to know what drivers think about us, and are we doing what we think we're doing? And so getting their feedback is really important. So every single week, once a week, we've got, we call it a driver lunch. And so again, we've got executives that are going and chatting with drivers, digitally, but because we've got drivers in multiple locations and things like that. But so they're meeting with these drivers, they're having candid conversations with these drivers, and not holding back, and letting the drivers share their honest feedback too, and addressing it right there. And if they can't, saying, hey, we'll get this, we'll figure it out for you, and then communicating appropriately. We've always got ongoing, email communications, sending messages to their tablets and things like that. But just having that open communication with them on a regular basis, knowing that they've got that platform to go to, certainly helps us. We've also got like a full-time chaplain that just reaches out if there's ever any struggles they're going through, making sure that they're doing okay. We want to make sure that anything we can do to help, we're there to help them through. And one thing that we're very proud of is we actually back in 2019 created a genuine foundation, 501c3 foundation. And it's designed to help employees of any of the Anderson family of companies, so even just beyond ATS, if they're going through a financial hardship, we want to help them out. And so employees here are donating all the time to that because they want to help their fellow employees. And since that was founded in 2019, actually at the end of this last year, we had found out that they had helped more than 400 families with about $1 million in financial support. So that's one we're really proud of. Yeah, absolutely.
As you should be. That's incredible and very unique. I've had, lots of guests in the industry for a while, and I haven't heard of a company, starting that nonprofit to help their drivers financially, or if someone's ill in their family. That's incredible.
Yeah, you just never know when things like that are going to arise. You could think you're prepared for whatever, and it just absolutely catches you off guard. A loved one dies unexpectedly, a hurricane comes through, whatever it may be. You never know, and it catches you way more off guard than you'd ever expect. And so that's what this is here to do, is help them.
So there's a real sense of engagement with these drivers, the Friday lunches or the weekly lunches, for example. Mm-hmm. And with the executive team, that's either there or they may be remote, but there's a presence, and on a weekly basis, drivers know. And I think that's the biggest piece, is drivers knowing that there's a time that's allocated to speak to other team members, whether they're C-suite executive or the janitor, right? Like, they have a time to express the good, the bad, and the ugly. And I think that's a big piece. Usually there's more sometimes bad than good, but there's a lot of wins that we hear through these success stories in drivers connecting with executives, and executives just understanding, okay, do we need to have a certain conversation with our customer? Do we need to, right? And really, really taking that into consideration and people, when it comes down to it, they just want to be valued and heard, and sometimes can't do much about it immediately, but in the near future you can. And so I think that's an incredible program that you guys have across the board. Now talk to me. I've seen this across multiple socials, specifically your website, about professional development. That seems to be really, really big with ATS, and career growth opportunities, which I just love to see that, and really want to see more trucking companies have that out there so we can recruit more folks into our industry. So can you talk to us about what role that plays in overall?
Yeah, absolutely. So the big thing, just like any one of us, right? We've got career goals. Truck drivers absolutely have career goals too. And so as much as we can help them reach those goals, we want to do, particularly for us on the flatbed side, we go all the way from, we'll teach you how to do flatbed. If you've got some driving experience under your belt, we'll teach you how to become a flatbed driver. And we've got also a heavy haul program that goes all the way up to 17 axle Schnabel trailers for wind towers, things like that. So you could come in with zero flatbed experience, and over the course of your career, continue to learn, and you could be that person driving down the road, pulling a wind tower. And so we're going to help you get there, and we'll teach you the entire way. Takes a while, right? It takes years to develop those skills, but we can't expect to go from a line level employee to a vice president overnight either. So it's similar thought process, right? And so on the flatbed side, it's really crystal clear to see that career path. But I picture on the van side too, right? Just because you're hauling a van trailer all the time doesn't mean there aren't opportunities for you to develop too. Maybe you want to do OTR while you get your feet wet in the industry, and then once you're more settled and comfortable, you want a dedicated run or things like that. So the more you can provide opportunities for tenured drivers to try and keep them around, we have that policy of why let a good employee go. If you can help them get where they want to go, let's help them get where they want to go. And quite frankly, sometimes that does mean it's something we can't offer them, but we'll help you until we can't. And then once we can't, hopefully we can recommend a good company for you, kind of like we do in our articles, that maybe it isn't us, but right. That's okay.
And that's okay. And I think that's a really great stance to have in so many regards. And ATS was founded by a truck driver in 1955. And I absolutely love the history of the story and the origins, because, I've found in this industry, there are more trucking companies that have the American dream story where they were a driver, or maybe their dad was a driver, their uncle, grandfather, and they just started there, and it started with one truck, one driver, right? Then one truck, one driver goes to two, and it catapults from there. But what I've also found is folks that have had that experience really keen into how can we retain our drivers, what opportunities can we give them, because they were in their shoes and understand what it's like to be a driver out there on the road.
Yeah, it certainly goes a long way. We all like to, especially in this industry, right? We all like to say how important truck drivers are, but it kind of goes back to saying that you care about all these things and your behaviors don't back it up. So when you can back it up by saying that, a driver founded this company, and every single day we hear how it's all about the driver experience. What can we do to improve the driver experience? Our president talks like that all the time. Well, what's this going to do to improve the driver experience? So it's just kind of instilled in all of us that, well, the decisions we make should hopefully have the outcome that improves the driver experience. So that's what we work to do in recruiting, of course, and making sure that what we're telling them up front aligns with what they get in the orientation process. And then once they're actually onboarded, does it all align? And if not, then we've got some work to do. And if so, good. We're making the driver experience better. And so that's what we kind of work to do.
That's exactly what it's about. Let's move on to the third R, recognition.
Sure.
How does ATS cultivate a culture of appreciation within the team, considering, most OTR position, most of the time drivers are out on the road? I know we touched on some things around the weekly lunches, but can you talk to me more about what steps your team takes to cultivate that recognition?
Yeah, well, one of them is we take take a lot of pride in our 1,000,000-mile drivers, the ones that have gone 1,000,000 miles without an accident. And so what we'll do is we'll make sure that they're up here. We'll have a nice ceremony for them. They get a couple things, make sure that the leadership in the company is there for them when that ceremony happens. It's kind of a big event. And then we've got a hallway near a safety department that's just got a bunch of pictures of drivers that have gotten their 1,000,000 miles or more. I think we've got somebody up to 4,000,000 miles at this point. So just that. Oh yeah. It's fantastic. And actually one of our sister companies, Warren, if you guys have heard of them, when I was in the marketing team, we had a driver come up here that had 7,000,000 miles. So it's pretty impressive when drivers can drive down those roads that we all drive down and see what they experience every single day, and they can somehow get to 1,000,000+ miles without an accident. It's quite impressive. And so we want to make sure that they understand how impressed we are in their work. And, it just comes down to kind of creating that sense of community as well with drivers and their families. Cause like you said, they are out on the road. So how can you recognize them when they're maybe not at home to get that recognition all the time? And, I kind of go back to COVID did a lot of negative things for a lot of us, but there were certainly some positive takeaways we could have from that. And one of them was how, outside of our industry, how much appreciation drivers were able to see. It's kind of a bummer to see how that's started dwindled off again, at least outside of our industry. But so that recognition was great. But then also just getting creative on how you can connect with people when you couldn't go see them in person. This video that we're doing right now, it was not commonplace prior to COVID. So how we can connect with people over video. We're certainly using a lot more video today than we ever have on the recruiting process. Drivers have probably seen our recruiters' faces a lot more than they ever have prior to COVID. So yeah, just things like that.
Yeah, part of the recruiting process and I see some carriers adopting that. And if you think about it, we do it for executive roles, we do it for administration roles. It should apply to drivers.
Yeah, and so we're not necessarily connecting like this face to face where the driver's on the call plus the recruiter's on the call. But what we do is have the recruiter shoot a video that is specific to that driver they're talking to. It's not like they just shoot a video and they send it out to 1,000,000 people. They're shooting that video 1-to-1 for that driver and saying, hey, thanks for applying, whatever it may be. We can use it in so many steps of the process, and then just we've got a pretty big YouTube channel at this point now too, where we're putting the educational videos and things like that out there. So a lot more video than we've probably ever seen, and I think the pandemic time certainly made us rely on video a lot more than maybe we ever have.
I couldn't agree with you more. And your statement about COVID, obviously global pandemic, terrible in so many ways, but there were silver linings in a lot, and especially for an industry that has historically been old school. We were all forced to have these Zoom calls and Teams calls, and now we're able to connect with each other even more so. Even though the tools were available beforehand, it wasn't the norm. And now it is very much the norm to meet on a video call, and you're able to at least see each other face to face, which I always think makes a difference. I mean, still nothing as great as being in person with people,
right?
But with positions that are often very much it's remote, they're on the road, or staff that's out on the road. If you have that ability to connect with them virtually, go for it. And I think that was definitely a silver lining. And during COVID, I'll tell you this, we had a program through Fifth Wheel Hub, which is our driver network that's growing. We have 250,000 drivers, which we're excited about. But we did this whole program during COVID called the Fifth Wheel Hub Heroes campaign. And we wanted to honor drivers, and we're bringing that back because we realized, what, we did it during COVID, and it was great. But, life happens, and we decided we're going to bring that back. And, really the goal of the program is to honor drivers that are out there hauling our goods every single day. For the first time in years, I got phone calls from my friends and family members that are outside of the industry, and they're like, now I understand why you're in trucking, right? And to appreciate the drivers. And so we're going to be bringing that back, the Fifth Wheel Hub Heroes campaign. and love to have some drivers from ATS. And essentially, let's show the world, let's show the country about what the drivers are doing and humanize it a little bit more.
For sure. Yeah, it was really encouraging to see so many people during the pandemic, and appreciate, beyond, there was many industry or professionals beyond truck drivers, of course, but they're the ones that are closest to our hearts. And so it was good to see that, how much recognition truck drivers got.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So, question for you. You've had a couple of hats and great experience at ATS. What advice would you give to recruiters who are looking to overall improve their recruitment strategies to achieve better results?
I think it boils down to always being open to trying something new. I think if we were still recruiting the way we did 10 years ago, we would fall flat on our face. We have to change. Drivers have changed. We have to meet them where they're at. I think most recruiters, if you ask them what their preferred way to talk to a driver to try to get them on board, they would say on the phone. Well, a person like me, I don't want to pick up the phone. I don't want to be, when it comes to ordering food, I'll do it on an app any day before I'll pick up the phone and order a pizza, right? And so we have to meet drivers that are like me or whatever, wherever they're at. If they email you, keep talking via email. If they text you, keep texting them. And if they pick up the phone, by all means, have that phone call conversation with them. But it's all about meeting drivers where they're at, and kind of, what we talked about earlier. They're doing most of their research ahead of time. So the more we can help them get that research done, the better. But yeah, it for sure comes down to just being open to trying new things.
Yeah, that's important. And in an industry that has been historically, again, not up with the times on technology, the companies that have really, even ATS starting this social marketing campaigns before COVID, that's rare. A lot of companies are now trying to catch up with it, with all the work, because it takes a lot of time, it takes a lot of work. And so I think that's great advice to always be open to adapting. We're really recruiting, I think it's 4 or 5 generations of the workforce, from baby boomers all the way down to Gen Z, and everyone communicates differently. And everyone has a preferred, way of communication. And I'm with you. I'm a text, let's get it done quickly. But, my parents want to talk on the phone for 75 hours. So it's definitely different. And I think being open to that is critical. So let's, we have our database of 250,000 drivers, and we're going to be sharing this with them. And you guys do a lot of great things over there at ATS. 30 seconds or less. Why should a driver consider a career at ATS?
To me, it can kind of tell it through my story. I took this job thinking that, this was a great foot in the door to get some marketing experience, and I'll move on when the better opportunity presents itself. Well, here I am 6 years later, not in marketing, still working for ATS. So it's just that feel of, it doesn't matter what your title is. It doesn't matter about all that stuff. You can talk to whoever you have to talk to. You can share your thoughts, fears, worries, concerns, whatever they may be. And anybody is willing to listen. And I would say that most everybody absolutely cares about your opinions, and they want to do it or want to fix it. And so that goes a long way for me. And that the titles, aren't something that people lean on, right? It matters when it matters, but for the most part, it doesn't. And doors are open. Drivers can wander. They can talk to anybody they need to talk to address any concerns they have. And that goes a long way for me.
Absolutely. In essence, a true open door policy for
absolutely
to understand exactly what's going on with the driver, what's going well, what's not going well, how do we address it as a team, right? Mm-hmm. And I think that's important. A company that was started in, again, 1955 by a driver himself and has grown to, over 1,000 driver fleet and growing is quite impressive. And just absolutely love all the content that you guys put out there. Keep going. It's incredible, and excited to see where it goes over the next couple of years. But you guys definitely are pioneers in our space in advertising and recruitment and educating our current generation and then the next generation of drivers, right? And that's what we have to do as an industry, and that's the goal of this podcast, right? So is to really educate folks outside of our industry and why they should join, whether it's a driver, whether you're interested in marketing, right? There's other, assets to basically leverage coming into this industry. So any
Sure.
final words?
Well, first, I appreciate that you had me join. It was a lot of fun to talk through this. As you're aware, this is kind of one of those industries that hooks you. So once you're in, it feels like you care a lot about it, and you want to share your thoughts, and you want to help the industry, be in a better place than where you started it in. And I feel like this is a great opportunity to do it. So thank you very much.
Oh, absolutely. And we'd love to have you back anytime. And it was just a pleasure, especially with you having the marketing background. That's exciting. That's very rare in the industry. And that concludes another episode of Attention Retention. I want to thank ATS, Jeron, for tuning in today. And remember, the road to success begins with effective recruitment, thoughtful retention, and genuine recognition. Feel free to share this knowledge with your peers and industry colleagues. We're going to have ATS down in the show notes. We're going to have their link to their careers page, as well as a link to their website. Feel free to reach out to them as a driver if you're interested in learning more about career opportunity with them. Your sharing can make a difference. Together, we can empower the industry to thrive. Until next time, everyone, thank you.